Southland Fish and Game staff have just finished our dive of the Upper Oreti. We drift dive the Upper Oreti each year as part of our annual trout monitoring program. The section of river that we drift dive is 2.5 kilometres upstream of the Three Kings and also 2.5 kilometres downstream of the Three Kings. The drift diving technique is a really useful technique for monitoring trout populations in the Upper Oreti River, just because the Upper Oreti River is quite a manageable size and it's also a very clear river, so it's easy to spot the trout. The Upper Oreti River is a highly valued river amongst many of our anglers, both domestic and international, and because it's so valued it really does need careful management, and the information we get from drift diving gives us that information that we need. When we're drift diving the Oreti River, we use 2 divers in the water and 1 bank person. Using 2 divers in the Oreti gives us an adequate number of divers to make sure that we're thoroughly covering the water. So it's important when we're doing our drift diving that we're not missing any trout, but also we've got to be mindful that we don't double count trout as well. Over the last few years we've started to measure habitat variables when we're out doing our drift diving. So in particular we're interested in the pools. So we're starting to measure the size, the shape and also the depth of some of these pools, so that when there are changes in the trout population we can determine whether those changes are due to natural changes in pool habitat, for example, or whether those changes are due to some other anthropogenic or human-induced factor. This year the count of our trout from our drift diving survey is showing that the numbers of trout are down relative to previous years, ever so slightly. Still plenty of good fish around though, around that 5 to 7 pound mark, so they're sure to keep the angler happy. As for where the fish are in the Upper Oreti, as you'd expect, the pool habitat does tend to hold quite a few fish. However, it's quite interesting as we are doing our dives, we've noticed that the fish are scattered really throughout all different types of habitat. We'll find them in the riffles, particularly behind large boulders. We'll find them in some of the deep runs under the undercut banks, and we'll also find them every now and then in some of that heavier water that you wouldn't expect the fish to be in, so they really are widely distributed in the Oreti River. The information we gain from drift diving is really valuable. We're able to detect changes in the population from year to year, as well as trends in the population over time. We can then use this information to make management decisions.